when you're 11-0 at a, well, I can only imagine a 4,300 player tournament.
Yeah. So again, you see Martinez on the right. He's playing the Black-Green Obliterator rock deck. You've got William Aitken on the left playing Merfolk. Now, we talked about Black-Green Obliterator a little bit. You know, Reed Duke, Pantheon. Obviously, you guys probably worked on this deck a little bit here. Merfolk, did this ever come up in your guys' testing for the Pro Tour? Or even under consideration?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Paul Rietzel actually played it quite a bit, and a few other people tested it a fair bit. It's not bad. It just depends on what you're going to face. Like, it's real good against control decks, it ends up being a little bit vulnerable to Zoo.
Okay.
And it's got trouble against faster decks like Affinity.
Gotcha.
You know, but for the most part, we gave it a fair shake, and it was close, but not quite what we want. However, I think it's totally reasonable if it's your style. You know, it's a totally reasonable deck, and not a lot of people are prepared for it.
We've got an Inquisition of Kozilek here. So Martinez is going to write down the contents of William's hand. There's a Master of the Pearl Trident, a Silvergill Adept, a Tidebinder Mage to go along with 2 Mutavaults and an Island. So pretty honest, fair hand here from Aitken.
Yeah, I mean, and this is a mostly standard black-green Obliterator deck. Yep. The only place he's really varied, the only place he's strayed from the Duke's original vision is with the use of 2 Courser of Cruffixes. Reed Duke was more on the Kitchen Finks plan, but Courser of Cruffix doubles as an anti-control card, or just a way to generate advantage over time.
So you do see the Inquisition takes care of the Master of the Pearl Trident. Here's Silvergill Adept. That's going to reveal Tidebinder Mage, which of course Martinez did know about. Going to draw a card and pass the turn back over to Mario, who will draw a Tarmogoyf for the turn. This is a forest, and we'll see what the follow-up's going to be. It's going to be a Scavenging Ooze. And
it's funny, we saw the Ooze come down instead of the Tarmogoyf what normally would, because the Silvergill Adept showed the Tidebinder Mage.
Yep. And it looks like Tidebinder will start here. Going to take care of this green creature, allow the Adept to come in for 2. Tidebinder Mage, a card that we think of in standard, mono blue devotion, of course. It actually isn't so bad in Modern, given the fact that, you know, those green creatures are kind of annoying for Merfolk, and tapping those down like a Tarmogoyf or an Ooze is actually a pretty powerful effect.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously it eats a lot of lightning bolts, but it gets, you know, it has some tempo to it, even the turn you play it, tapping the creature down and removing it even for 1 turn. And in a matchup like this, it's a little bit more effective than it would be against Zoo, because he's got fewer ways to get rid of it, and the ways cost more mana.
So you see Tarmogoyf does come down. It's a 2/3. Atkin's going to tap those 2 islands to see what he's going to play on this turn, as he does play a Mutavault before doing anything. You see his hand, he's got a Spell Pierce. He also has a copy of Spreading Seas in his hand, and he's going to play a Master of the Pearl Trident. So that's going to make everything a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, and he's going to come into the red zone here.
Yeah, he did consider perhaps just using the Spreading Seas instead to take away Mario's black mana, but Mario hasn't missed any land drops. He doesn't know that Mario doesn't just have more swamps in his hand.
Tarmogoyf's going to get in front of Silvergill Adept. That's going to trade. You're going to see 3 damage coming across the Mutavault, obviously a 2/2, and the Master's going to pump it since it is everything. So William's off to a very aggressive start right now, and the combination of Master of the Pearl Trident and Lord of Atlantis, along with Spreading Seas, obviously quite good in this matchup. But this black-green rock deck, even though it's a 2-color deck, it's got a little bit of shaky mana.
Yeah, I mean, normally it's not too bad, but here he drew a lot of the 1-color lands. And now we see, obviously, the slightly awkward multiple green sources and an Obliterator on top.
Yeah.
But he very wisely traded the Tarmogoyf off, just trying to make sure that he's got as much time as possible. You know, if things go a little longer, the matchup will very much favor him. But in the early game, he's at real risk of falling behind.
Spreading Seas is going to be placed on this deck. It looks like it's going to take care of a forest, maybe Treetop Village. Okay, it looks like it's going to be Treetop Village. So that'll obviously cantrip and draw William a card, who's going to fire up Mutavault here and be able to get into the red zone with these creatures, and Tidebinder Mage and Mutavault. And I don't think there will be any Bloxies allowed, since Island Walk is going to work here in William's favor. It's going to put Martinez down to 10. Martinez is going to sacrifice Verdant Catacombs. 1, to get a land out of his deck, but 2, let's get that Phyrexian Obliterator out of here. That's not going to do a lot.
Yeah, the Courser of Cruffix interaction with fetch lands quite strong for giving selection.
One thing about Courser, you expect that to be a standard card, no, not so much in Modern.
Oh, I mean, it's been showing up since the first Pro Tour. It's not, like, obviously breaking any power level records, but it is the right body, living through Bolt. It blocks Wild Nikado. It gives you a nice, modest advantage that you can actually afford to play with. And the life gain actually adds up. Like right here, a couple extra points of life, you know, doesn't just mitigate the fetch damage. It also gives him some breathing room, possibly an extra turn against this Merfolk deck.
Treetop Village going to come into play here for Mario. He's going to trigger Courser, going to go up to 12. He did draw Liliana the Veil for the turn, so we'll see if that's going to come into play and if it will have an impact on this game. You see both players just making sure the life totals are kosher here in case Mario did miss with the Courser, but it looks like we're probably okay. Once I do get this situated out, I want to see what Mario does have to play this turn because he's got some catching up to do. He's not terribly far behind, but it's a little bit worrisome, and now this is actually a pretty timely Spell Pierce.
Yeah, definitely. This Spell Pierce was right on time. Now Mario's facing a 2-turn clock and knows that his top card isn't gonna help him a lot. He really needs to get rid of that Master.
See a Silvergill Adept to draw here from William. Not sure if he has a Merfolk in his hand. He's going to start by playing an island. It looks like he may have a Merfolk. It's actually just another copy of Spreading Seas.
Wow, this is huge.
Yeah.
Now, Mario still has at least 1 black mana, so he will be able to Maelstrom Pulse the Master or the Tidebinder, most likely the Master next turn. But he is really behind on mana.
And again, those Mutavaults are going to be 3/3s because Master's in play. And then Tidebinder Mage will actually get to swim across as well. So you're going to see Mutavaults fire up. You're going to see Tidebinder Mage come across as well. It's going to be an attacker for 9. It's going to put Martinez down to 2. And all of a sudden, we're going to see a Scavenging Ooze activation. But that Maelstrom Pulse looks like it's got one target in mind.
Oh, yeah. He has to hit the Master and drop a blocker. But even then, he's... I mean, if he drops a Tarmogoyf or a Scavenging Ooze, he can potentially, you know, block all the attackers. But a single Master would end the game immediately.
So Martinez is going to start by tapping some mana here. He's got to find a green mana, and there that is. So looks like we are going to see Maelstrom Pulse in just a moment. And, you know, there's maybe an argument to be made about if you can destroy Spreading Seas and if you'll be okay, but it doesn't look like he will be if he takes that route.
No, yeah, he has to get the Master off the table or the just unblockable damage will end him immediately.
He comes to the same conclusion that you do. Get that Master out of here. Follow up with a Tarmogoyf. We'll check the size on that in a moment. And pass the turn back at 3 life.
And this is a real precarious position. He's got 2 blockers. A single Tidebinder Mage or a Vapor Snag would end the game immediately.
Well, I actually think Phantasmal Image will do just fine.
Yep.
Copy Tidebinder Mage. Trigger will go in the stack. Tap the Tarmogoyf. Mario will have to tap that down. And if William does fire both Mutavaults here, I think it's game over.
Slaughter Pact is the only out.
That would be filthy.
It is not. It is not.
William Aitken's going to win at game number 1 here over Mario Martinez. Merfolk, 11-0, up a game here over Black Green Rock. We're going to take a look at the sideboards here. We'll start with Mario since he's going to be on the play for game number 2. You got 3 copies of Creeping Corrosion, 3 Fulminator Mages, 2 copies of Deathmark, an Obstinate Baloth, a Grafdigger's Cage, a Thoughtseize, a Thrun, a Sword of Light and Shadow, and a Golgari Charm, along with a Singleton Dismember. Patrick, unsurprisingly, you're not going to find any cards in the sideboard here that say, hey, I'm here to beat Merfolk.
Yeah, Merfolk isn't really a deck that gets hosed all that easily. He does have a few cards that are reasonable. I mean, Dismember is definitely top notch because being able to hit the Lords, like the Masters, is you know, priority number 1. But beyond that, there's, you know, minor little tweak options. You have Fulminator Mage if you want a little edge against Mutavault. You've got Golgari Charm if you think that it'll come to a spot where you need to be able to hit the Silvergill Adepts and the Curse Catchers. I don't even think it's that good, though. And then finally, you have Thrun, the last troll, in terms of providing a reliable blocker. But again, I think that the real issue is just keeping Masters off the table. Nothing else is really that important. So my guess would be priority number 1 is the 1 Dismember, possibly other minor tweaks, but that there isn't really a lot for him.
Taking a look on William's side, again, he is up a game right now. He'll be on the draw. We're taking a look at Echoing Truth, 1 Vidalcan Shackles, 1 Hurkyl's Recall, 2 Steel Sabotage, 2 copies of Grafdigger's Cage, 2 Chalice of the Void, 3 Swan Songs, and 3 copies of Spellskite. Anything we like here in particular?
Nope.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one, too.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't really have any bad cards in his main deck, but that's fortunate because he doesn't really have any good cards in his sideboard.
Yeah.
So there's really not a lot he can change. I mean, the anti-combo cards, obviously not for this matchup. His anti-Tarmogoyf type cards are already in his main deck. And then he's got some anti-beatdown cards, also not for this matchup. There's really, I mean, if it's possible that he wants Vidalcan Shackles, but they're so vulnerable to Maelstrom Pulse and Abrupt Decay, I don't think you do. It's possible he wants Spell Skite, but they're so vulnerable to Liliana and don't block the big creatures, I don't think you do. I think we're going to see both players not really change very much from their decks.
So what kind of edge do you think you gain, playing a deck like Merfolk that, we took a look at, again, Martinez's sideboard where he doesn't really have any cards for the matchup. Not much of a surprise, of course, because I don't think many people come to this tournament looking to beat Merfolk. Do you think that gives you a slight edge on the tournament of just people aren't really going to prepare for my deck?
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain balance you have to strike between when you play one of these fringe decks that people aren't prepared for. You're losing a couple percentage points on deck strength, but you gain a couple percentage points on people being unfamiliar with it. And I think that's why it just keeps coming back to which do you know better, because it all more or less balances out. There's little edges to be gained, but the most important edge in Modern is how well you know your deck and how to play against all the other decks. And then beyond that, it's little surprise twists. When you put a twist that somebody wasn't expecting, did you choose to use one extra Rule of Law or one extra Stony Silence? Did you use, the powerful sideboard cards or the card that somebody isn't prepared for, like a Storm Breath Dragon or a Sword of Feast and Famine in the main deck or something like that,
See the beginning turns here. Aitken has a very nice start with a copy of Aether Vial, but Martinez fires back with a copy of Dark Confidant. Vial's going to tick up to 1. So obviously this is going to allow him to use his mana to do things and then vial in some creatures, which is a very powerful strategy that Merfolk gets to employ. Not many other decks actually get to use Vial to their advantage.
No, and Aether Vial is generally the best card in the Merfolk deck.
Yeah.
It so quickly becomes better than a Soul Ring, producing multiple mana turn and of a color.
Dark Confidant's going to reveal a Verdant Catacombs, which Martinez will play, so he's going to go down to at least 19. You see the Spreading Seas there on the Woodland Cemetery. Spreading Seas, actually a pretty big deal in this matchup. We saw in the last game, unblockable off of the Masters and the Lords, and then messing with the mana base here that's trying to cast Phyrexian Obliterator on turn number 4, as a Inquisition of Kozilek's going to show us a hand of Aether Vial, Master of Waves, a Phantasmal Image, a Lord of Atlantis, a Cavern of Souls, and an Island.
I love Mario Martinez's sort of light and shadow that he brought in here. It's not at its best in this matchup, but it is an unfamiliar element. It's something that William is not going to be expecting, and it could quickly take over a game if William's not prepared for it.
The follow-up play here for Martinez after attacking is a Scavenging Ooze. Lord of Atlantis was discarded to Inquisition of Kozilek, as the Vial is going to tick up to 2, but he does draw a replacement copy of Lord of Atlantis, so all is okay here for the Fish player.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that between rounds, or between the games, that Mario's #1 task, the most important thing, is getting dealing with the Masters and Lords of Atlantis.
Yeah. See a Vial come down. Phantasmo is actually going to copy Dark Confidant, so looks like somebody is in the market for a few extra cards, potentially, as Martinez is going to reveal an Abrupt Decay, so maybe that's going to put an end to that nonsense. And the draw there for the turn is a Verdant Catacombs for Martinez.
It's interesting choosing to just cast the image and not vial it down.
Yeah.
Is he going to vial down something else?
Well, we know he has another copy of Lord of Atlantis in his hand, and so he does have some things that he can vial through, and then he can work his way towards Master of Waves. I mean, maybe potentially the thought process here is I don't think that image is actually going to live anyway, but it also commits your turn to being this, because there's a Liliana the Veil. So this is going to tick down. This is going to force Aitken to sacrifice a creature, but he might be interested in actually sacrificing a Lord as opposed to the image now. Yeah. So he's going to vial in Lord of Atlantis. He's going to sacrifice that. Ooze is going to remove the Lord. It's going to tick up to a 3/3. And now we're actually going to watch Aitken draw a couple extra cards next turn.
Sure doesn't have a lot of life to work with, though, after this bash knocks him to 13.
Yeah.
Maybe he can afford 1 extra card, possibly 2. But the nice thing about this is that he gets to attack the Liliana.
Yeah. There's a Spreading Seas. It's going to put Aitken down to 11. Let's see what Aitken draws for the turn. He's actually got the Vial triggers to actually compensate for. He's going to leave it at 2. It's a 2-0 right now. He might be waiting for a die, though. It might be going up to 2-1. We'll find out momentarily, as there's a Cavern of Souls that's going to come into play. I think unsurprisingly going to name Merfolk here. And now there's a Master of Waves. Devotion check is just a rather boring 1, as Phantasmal Image is a Dark Confidant right now.
Definitely.
And we're being notified right now it was actually a missed trigger on the Aether Vials. You see Dark Confidant take care of that Liliana. I still think, though, things are actually still going pretty well here for Martinez.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, they have the potential to slip away pretty quickly, but he's got some serious pressure on him. He's got lots of options. He's got plenty of mana, plenty of cards. I think he's just generally in a decent position here. Now the question is, how do you make forward progress here? He knows you have Abrupt Decay. If you hit the token now, he won't be able to block with it. But if you attack, you might not. You might be able to save the Abrupt Decay for a Master of Atlantis or Lord of Atlantis.
Yeah. It looks like I did a devotion count of 1. I forgot the spreading seas that was actually out there, so it looks like we're getting this caught up. The devotion should actually be 2.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it seems like and this is not one of those things, like he didn't miss the trigger.
Yeah.
He has to resolve the trigger, right?
So it looks like that's why we've got a bit of a pause in gameplay. I think, I agree with you that I think he should get the other elemental because he did resolve the trigger. He just resolved it for the incorrect amount. So we'll see what the ruling is here from the judge. But as you did mention, there is an Abrupt Decay hanging out there in Martinez's hand. I think he's trying to figure out what the best target for that's going to be. And then the Sword of Light and Shadow gives him actually a pretty nice end game.
Yeah, he definitely has a plan. It's the tough thing, though, and the reason why you wouldn't normally use Sword of Light and Shadow in this matchup, it is real easy to block.
Yeah. But it also kind of forces the block, too.
It does.
There's a bit of a trade-off there, but if Aitken's able to cobble together a bunch of Master of Waves, then blocking actually won't be that difficult.
And the extra life gained by it would be surprisingly relevant. Not to mention, obviously, it's always nice to be able to get back creatures after there's some trades.
Yeah, it seems like in this matchup, we're probably going to work ourselves towards some racing situations where the life that is gained, as you mentioned, will probably play a pretty big role. So as we do clear up this ruling, we'll find out exactly what happens from our table spotter as far as the Master of Waves goes. You see both players kind of talking it out, and the judge is probably making a ruling here. But if you are just joining us, Cedric Phillips, Patrick Chapin, and Matthias Hunt, bringing you Grand Prix Richmond here. 4,300 players came out for our modern tournament, but we're whittling away. We had just under 500 into day 2.
Definitely, and we're down to the last 2 undefeateds.
Yeah.
This is it. We're going to find out who will start out 12-0 and who will be stuck at a mere 11-1.
Now, if you told me coming in this tournament that the last 2 11-0s would be Black, Green, Rock, and Merfolk, I would not have believed you, my friend.
See, I would have believed you because you could honestly just roll like a 100-sided die.
Okay.
And I would believe you. So it looks like they are going to back up a little bit, return a random card to the top of his library, and they're going to resolve the trigger, and we're going to do a whole bunch of hoopla that ends up involving nothing happening.
I'm a little bit surprised to see a bit of a backup here, I guess. But
well, technically you have to. He resolved the trigger, but he didn't finish resolving it, so you have to get back to that spot.
Okay, gotcha. And so now, it looks like they're now I believe they have to resolve the Dark Confidant trigger. Yeah, there's an Overgrown Tomb. So now I believe what happens here is they just reconstructed the game state to exactly where it's supposed to be. Now he draws his card for the turn, and I believe now we are good to go. The green light is on.
Amusingly, he just drew Sword of Light and Shadow again.
It was good before, and it's still going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, it's not clear what he drew that turn, what he had originally drawn that turn, but I am confident it was not Sword of Light and Shadow. Either way, the game state got to the correct spot.
Abrupt Decay is going to take down the Phantasmal Imaged Dark Confidant, and now here's a sword, so Mario's able to use all of his mana on the turn, which is obviously a pretty good turn, and now a main phase Slaughter Pact as well. But a response here. Activate Aether Vial, going to copy Master of Waves.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow, that's big.
Devotion check is 3. We have it right this time because we can't forget about the spreading seas.
It is not 3.
It is not 3.
It is not 3.
Why do we say it's not 3?
It is, God, it is 3.
It is 3.
I was thinking it was even more, but those blue tokens are not actually blue.
Okay. So we are good to go. It is at 3. But more importantly, the devotion is that there are 5 2-1s in play right now, with the potential to get even bigger depending on what Aitken draws. As he does trigger the vial, that's going to go up to 1. He's going to leave the other one at 2. He's going to take a draw.
Take the draw.
Now, let's not forget something either. There was a slaughter pact cast last turn. And then a lot of things happened after that slaughter pact. And there is potential for Martinez to maybe forget to pay for his pact. A little game inside the game here. That's all I'm saying. And there's no die on top of Martinez's deck like you oftentimes see.
What I want to see is 5 wave tokens get into the red zone. Let's get this down. Let's get this going. The tough thing though is that if you send everybody, he doesn't die on the spot, and the crackback from the sword is
actually quite relevant.
Is huge. Yep. The life gain is just massive.
So you see William Aitken, he's going to take a look here. He wants to take a look at the sword. Of course, it's going to give +2/+2, protection from white, protection from black. And the trigger, you'll gain 3 life and you return up to 1 creature card, 1 targeted creature card from your graveyard. Again, doesn't have the appropriate protection colors here, but the other text on it is actually pretty relevant in this matchup. And you wanted elemental tokens to come in. You didn't get 5, you only got 4. Dark Confidence is going to get in front of 1, Scavenging is going to get in front of the other. So some elementals will leave, 4 damage will come across. It's going to mark Martinez down to 11. And so for Mario, don't forget to pay that pact, young man.
You're going to be so happy.
There's no happiness here. He put the lands over to the side. And he even drew a card, so he's good to go. He's good to go. He's not 11-0 on accident, that's for sure. He's going to play a copy of Verdant Catacombs. You know, a lot of people talk about the fact that you can put a die on top of your deck for a pact, and it's a Bush League tactic or whatever. But, you know, it's free and they let you do it. And so I like the fact that, you know, if it's free and they let you do it, take advantage of it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's also free and they let you do it where you just bop your own nose like 3 times and go boop, boop, boop. But you don't do that either. I mean, just because you can do something doesn't mean you do it. You only do it if it's going to be helpful to you.
Sure, sure.
Because it also gives information to your opponent, and it's also a distraction mentally. If it's not helping you, you're using mental energy on that, and it slows things down. If it's helpful, by all means use it, but there's no reason you should do it every time. If you're not a person who needs it at all, then don't.
You see Tarmogoyf after combat is going to be a 5/6. Vials are going to take up to 3 and 2. Looks like a Silvergill Adept was the draw here for Aitken, so if you'd like to vial that in, he can draw a card. I think that's where his turn is going to start. So Silvergill Adept does come in. Trigger will draw him a card. It's a copy of Master of the Pearl Trident.
Quite big.
This is going to be a vial for 3. This is a Marrow Reedry. Now, don't forget, those elemental tokens are not Merfolk, so those aren't going to get any bigger. Master will make the Merfolks actually bigger. You've got the trigger from the Reedry. That's going to top the Tarmogoyf. And look at Merfolk go.
Oh, absolutely. And William's version of Merfolk using 4 Spreading Seas. A lot of people only use 2. He's using 4 so that he can ensure that he gets that island walk as much as possible.
So you're going to see Master of Waves. That's what the Phantasmal Image is, excuse me. That's going to be attacked for 4 due to the 2 other lords. And the elemental tokens will be an attack for 4 as well. So that's going to be 8 damage. And all of a sudden Martinez is down to 2. He's going to get an Overgrown Tomb. You see William giving the thumbs up. William, I think, knows he has this one.
Yeah, I mean, there's really not a lot Mario can do. He doesn't have access to cards like Damnation. He needs to get rid of 2 lords this turn. The possibility of him actually getting through with his Tarmogoyf for his Ooze is just so slim. Yeah, I'm not sure if he's drawing to anything. I mean, the Ooze can gain a bunch of life, but he's not even close now. We've seen the power of Silvergill Adept drawing into more threats.
See a Sword Line Shadow is going to get equipped. Aitken gives him the thumbs up. And you see Martinez surveying the board, saying, can I attack? Can I not attack? Where am I going? What can I do? He's trying to figure out exactly what to equip the sword to. This matchup seems really tough for Black Green Rock, actually. In comes the Ooze. You see a very, very quick block here by by Aitken.
Not enough trample these days. If he had trample, man, life would be much better.
As good as those green creatures are, and they are very, very good, no trample, as Atkin's going to quickly untap. We'll see if he wants to move his vials at all.
Oh, that's weird. No Sword of Body and Mind?
He's going to take them all. He's going to turn them all sideways. And are we going to see an extension of the hand?
We're going to see Fog.
That is it. William Aitken defeats Mario Martinez 2-0, and he is our lone undefeated player. Merfolk, 12-0.
4,303 people walk in. only one